Just one quick clarification on the first part of the presentation. When I was referring to the Common App and the Coalition app, I was talking about the applications that can be sent to multiple schools using one application on a website. It's not to be confused with the apps that you'd find on your smartphone, but the Common App and the Coalition app, those are terms that are used in admissions to talk about the application put out by the Common App organization. I know it gets a little confusing, but Common App is an application that students use to send to colleges. It is not an app that you would necessarily find on your phone. However, Common App does have an app, so there's an app for that as well. I apologize if that gets a little confusing. So a student is going to, whether it's the Common App, the Coalition app, or a school site, they're going to hit submit and send their application to the schools. And they're going to get an automatic, we received your application email from that school. It's just an indication that they hit submit and that it was done correctly. So that's going to go out automatically as soon as they hit submit. In that email, most colleges will say, before we will process your application, we need your letter of recommendation, your essay, or your transcript or something like that. It'll give the students a to-do list, and it'll also issue the students an ID number so that they can go back into the college's website and check the status of their application. It won't necessarily give them an admissions decision when they check, but it'll say that, it's either in process, waiting on certain pieces, or some other message. So students are encouraged to go back to the school's website or to the application and just check to make sure, if they were waiting on the transcript, and within a couple of days that the transcript has been attached to the application file, or if they were waiting on a letter of recommendation, students should go back in there and make sure that that recommendation has been attached to their application file. Deadlines are deadlines. A few years ago, we had a student who had a November 1st deadline with the University of Michigan, and a teacher wrote the letter of recommendation and sent it to the University of Michigan's admissions office. For whatever reason, the letter never got attached to the student's application, and the student missed that priority deadline. And University of Michigan, God bless them, would do nothing to help our student out. The teacher had a record of when that letter was uploaded. The student had the record of when they'd requested it. Everybody had done the right things, but because of a glitch, it never got connected. So we do recommend that students go back and double check. And if that letter hasn't been received, it's okay to nag the teacher and say, listen, Mrs. Dalton, I know you uploaded my letter of recommendation, but the University of Wisconsin never received it. Can you please go back and check? And it's okay to nag the teachers, really. We want to make sure that we get this right. So again, you'll get an automatic confirmation of the submission. It'll give a request to submit additional documentation if needed. And once that is complete, a new email is normally sent to the student saying, Dear Matt Dalton, we've received all the parts of your application and we are ready to review your application. Please check back in 4 to 6 weeks, or, we will email you with a decision, or they'll give some type of next step process. So as you're waiting for that letter to come in, just take a deep breath and just, realize that you've done the best you can and that it's kind of out of the student's hands at that point. There is no benefit at all to calling the admissions office to check. Admissions people won't hold it against the student, but it's certainly not going to help to call U of I every week just to check the status. So it's always best just to let it go and, practice your yoga and your deep breathing techniques. So I'm switching over from the college application process to the FAFSA process. FAFSA is the free application for federal student aid. It is the form that has been required by the federal government for years to qualify for federal or state aid. The free, first word is free, application for federal student aid is something that you can access online if you go to fafsa.gov, and it is free. If you go to fafsa.com, it's a site where you will put in all the same information, but they will charge you to file your FAFSA for you. It's a scam. It's not anything that we recommend. So as long as you go to fafsa.gov, you're good to go. So anyway, in years past, the FAFSA was a process that was completed in January and February of the senior year, and it was based on the previous year's tax information. So in January, the FAFSA process would open up on January 1st. We would push kids to get it done as quickly as they could. However, many parents and students were waiting for their tax documentation from their employers in January, February, and it was slowing the process, and it was just getting a little uncontrollable from the student end and then from the college end. So what the federal government decided to do was to move that process earlier in the senior year. So starting with the class of 2017, the FAFSA is going to be opened up on October 1st. So you could go on October 1st and start to enter your information. What's different is that the financial aid is going to be based on your 2015 tax information. So the taxes that you submitted on April 15th of this year, that's the data that's going to be used to determine financial aid for the next school year. I realize a lot can happen between January or December 31st of 2015 and August 15th of 2017. That's a huge gap of time where lots of family circumstances can change. What we've been told is that families should absolutely use the 2015 data, but if there's been a significant change, a change in employment, a change in marital status, student becomes independent, or a parent is called into the military, or something significant happens, fill out the information with the 2015 data, and then contact the colleges when you're starting to narrow down the enrollment process and let them know about those changes. Colleges insist that they will be flexible. They will bring in new information to determine financial aid packages. But for most families and for most students, it'll just take the 2015 information and apply it to the 2017 tuition year. So they're referring to this as the prior year information because they're using 2015 information to determine 2017 financial aid. So if you ever see PPY, or if people are talking about the PPY FAFSA, it's the prior year FAFSA. So this is going to open up on October 1st. You can go in there. It's actually a fairly easy process compared to years past to get that information in there. We will have Illinois student assistance representatives here at LHS on Thursday, October 13th, to do a help session in the computer lab. So if you start to do your FAFSA stuff the week of October 1st, you run into some roadblocks, come just at a drop-in session, come anytime between 6:30 and 8 on October 13th, and we've got experts that will be here to help you. So once you hit submit on your FAFSA, FAFSA information can be sent to 10 schools. You can actually send it to more than 10 schools, but just in the basic application, 10 schools are allowed to receive your information. And then the colleges are going to send you a student aid report. It's called the SAR, and it's going to give you the financial aid packages. When you complete these, you're going to get these SAR reports, and they're going to include loans. In some of the schools will include loans as a piece of financial aid. Unsubsidized student loans and parent or plus loans really aren't aid. That's money that they're lending you that you're going to pay them back with interest. So if you get a student aid report from a school and it looks like you're going to go there for no tuition, there's a possibility that a good chunk of that is spelled out in loans. So make sure that you look through those information. You're looking for that loan information to make sure that you're getting a good deal. It is totally okay to meet with the financial aid office representatives at each school to discuss aid and eligibility. I know different families have different approaches to these conversations. Financial aid offices are used to dealing with families with different circumstances. Most colleges will negotiate, but it's not like negotiating for a car. They will take in information about your family and your situation and do their best to help the student, but it's not like you're passing pieces of paper across the table and trying to get the best deal possible. The colleges do have parameters in which they have to work. So, but that all will take place in the spring of senior year. So sources of financial assistance. Once you complete the FAFSA, you can qualify for federal student loans, federal student aid or state student aid if our state ever gives aid ever again. You can qualify for some aid from the college or the university that's based on need. So that's institutional assistance. It's the college is the institution. So you could get institutional assistance through the FAFSA. This is why we recommend that families complete the FAFSA, even if you know that you probably will not qualify for federal or state aid. It's a personal decision. It's a family decision. I know for our family, I know for sure we're not going to qualify for federal or state aid, but we're still going to complete the FAFSA process because certain colleges might give our son additional assistance based on what they see in the FAFSA. So I always think it's a good idea to fill it out, but it's certainly a family decision. Many colleges, all colleges, have institutional scholarships. These would be merit-based, so based on a skill or an achievement or something that a student can bring to the university. Some of these colleges will require the FAFSA even to give out merit-based aid, but the financial aid office will work through that with you. Many